Hey, oh man, let me do this. Oh, let me see. Let me see. Yeah, we're gonna make sure we do it right there. All right, so I'm gonna give people a little bit of time to be able to get on here. We got some things that we need to talk about. For those of you all who are new, you tune into the Sports Talk with Big Sarge podcast. I'm your host, Big Sarge. And what you heard me doing before was I'm doing this show live. So that means that I'm streaming across three social media platforms right now so that people can hear what I have to say. So people can hear what I have to say and see what I have to say because there's some things that in the immortal words of the great Negro poet, my cousin Andre Barfield, let me get this shit off my chest. It's time for me to go ahead and get some things off my chest. Now, when I woke up this morning, I did not plan on getting things off my chest. Did not. I woke up this morning, made sure that my Alperin Shingun article was put out. The New Orleans Pelicans starting center, Jonas Valanciunas, had a lot of good things to say about him. I got some other things that I'm going to put out when it comes to what Brandon Ingram said about Jabari Smith Jr., what Larry Nance Jr., former teammate of Kevin Porter Jr. Look at all these juniors. Like making me feel like I'm on what was that show called? My Wife and Kids? Junior. It's making me feel like that. But I just planned on writing articles today for Texans Wire, for Rockets Wire, getting myself ready because the Houston Rockets played their last game of their 6-game home stand tonight against the reigning NBA champions, the Golden State Warriors. So I woke up to get that stuff done, to get my day done, to get myself going. And in the midst of doing that, I got a little message. And the message was, hey man, why don't you go check your status on 790? I said, what do you mean check my status on 790? They say, go and see if you can access the 790 page. So I went to see if I could access the 790 page and I could not. Come to find out, I was blocked on the Sports Talk 790 page here in Houston, Texas. Now, for those of you all who are tracking, for those of you all who know, I used to be a guest host over at Sports Talk 790. I want to say that thing started back in 2018, I think. 2018, all the way up until the time that ND left in February of 2023. When I first started going over there, I was just sitting down, once a week, maybe once every 3 weeks. So I'll call in and I would talk to um, Greg Cook, former NFL player, and sit down with ND Kalu, former NFL player. They had their show called In the Trenches, and they invited me to come over. So I was like, hey, that's not a problem. I ain't got no issue with that. I was coming over there because those two guys, I really like those two guys. And I'll never forget the way ND and I got cool was my late wife Jamila. We were attending a football clinic that our good friend Natasha Gransberry, she does an amazing job covering sports herself, but she was doing a like a football type camp for women who didn't understand the football lingo and the language and the acronym. So she was doing that, and she my as I was running the camera, my late wife was sitting next to ND, and Natasha had this. Natasha did this thing where she was giving away prizes for people who knew, the trivia questions. So one or two of the questions my late wife did not know, and my late wife did not know. So ND gave her the answers, and they laughed about it, smiled. And during that time, that's when Jamila was still, diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. So she was in a wheelchair, if I'm not mistaken. But ND was giving out answers. And so ND and I got cool from that. We was at a book signing, and so we just, we stayed friends throughout that time. ND also knew that I was, covering sports here in the city of Houston. And so, we were just cool. So he invited me out to come to his show. Greg was okay with it. And, if Greg was out, I would sit in with ND, or if ND was out, I'd sit in with Greg, and it was not a problem, not an issue. And I was never ever, let me go on record by saying that, no, because a lot of people out there, they like to bring this up. Well, it don't matter, you never worked for 790. I know this. I know this, and you ain't never heard me complain about my bills not being paid, have you? Not one time. So I understand that I was not, I get it. I wasn't an employee of 790. I was cool with that. I still kept going. And as I kept going, the days that I was on air increased. So I was going over there out of the love and respect for ND Kalu. I was going over there out of the love and respect for ND, because ND is my true friend. Wasn't just somebody that I was on air with. Wasn't just somebody that I was just around. I Indy and I are true friends. We still talk. Indy can call me right now. If my phone rings, I'm stopping this live, getting off and saying, "Hey man, I'm on my way." So that's why I never had a problem going into 790 being on air with ND for those 2 hours, because I wasn't looking at it as me being on air, being an on-air radio personality. I looked at it as me spending time with my friend for 2 hours. Because for those of y'all who don't know, ND is a very busy person. Very, 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 very busy. I've only seen him one time, and that was at a Rockets game the other night since he's gotten off air. I'm trying, his schedule is super busy and super hectic. So for me to be able to hang out with my friend for 2 hours for 3 days a week, that was cool. I did not have a problem with that. Another thing that I need to make sure that you all know before I get into one specific instance, and I'm gonna tell you why I'm on this rant. One other thing, I have never, nor will I ever, use Sports Talk 790 or iHeartRadio for credentials. When I came to 790, I was already credentialed. There has never been one time I've asked 790 to put in anything for me to attend. Never. I've never asked them for nothing for the Rockets. I've never asked them for nothing for the Texans, the Astros, U of H, Dynamo, XFL, nothing. I apply for those credentials on my own. I've never asked 790 to do anything for me. I'm saying all this, and I got a point I'm gonna get to, but I'm telling you all of this because I want you all to know. I want you all to see where I'm going with this. So I've never ever, I wasn't an employee. I never used the station for credentials. I never promoted myself as a host. I would always say guest host on Sports Talk 790 in the trenches. I would always say guest host. I've never, ever promoted myself as a host on 790. I've never used 790 to my advantage to get anything. Even during the time I had it on my Twitter page, it was guest host on In the Trenches. I've always been a guest in ND Kalu's house on his show In the Trenches. So let's recap. Never been an employee, never used the station to get anything, no credentials, no nothing. Never promoted myself as a host. Always said I was a guest host. And there are other things that I'm going to talk about at a later date. There's other things that I'm going to talk about at a later date because I actually have things that I have to get done. Like I have to get them done before I leave out of here and head over to the Toyota Center. But before I get to all that, And what I mean, get to that at a later date. Y'all bear with me. So I'm gonna tell you, because some people want to know. Some people want to know, hey Sarge, why are you so upset? Why are you so upset that 790 blocked you on Twitter? You normally don't get mad at those type of things, Sarge. Those type of things normally don't bother you. You always said that you don't get paid by the follower. You always said it doesn't matter who's following you, if they block you or not. You've always said it doesn't matter, Sarge. So what? Don't be a hypocrite. Don't be a hypocrite today, Sarge. Don't get all in your feelings because 790 blocked you out. What's the difference now? Why are you changing now? Why are you so upset now? I'm gonna tell you why I am upset. Not because 790 blocked me, but because 790 blocked me. So there's a thing that I like to do on Sports Talk with Big Sarge podcast that's called Memory Lane. And the lyrics to the song Memory Lane, it goes, I stumbled across a photograph. It kind of made me laugh. It took me back, way back down memory lane. I'm going to take you all back down memory lane. August 15th, 2022. I am leaving out of NRG Stadium. I don't know what the Texans had going on at that time, but the Texans had to have something going on. It was probably training camp or something. So I was leaving out of NRG Stadium, getting ready to go on to the next venture, whatever I was about to do. And so normally I don't have my radio on local radio stations. I listen to a lot of Sirius XM because I like to listen to a lot of national sports shows. I like to listen to a lot of country music. I like to listen to Sirius XM Fly. I like to listen to Rock the Bells radio. I like to listen to the rock and roll stations. I listen to the news. Like I really use my Sirius XM subscription to the T. But it just so happened that when I was headed to NRG, ND was on air. So I was listening to the show. I was listening to ND's show. I was listening to In the Trenches as I was going to NRG. I got out of the truck, didn't change the station or nothing. So as I get back into the truck, 790 is on. Well, there's another show on. There's another show on, and I normally would just change the radio, but this show and the hosts were talking about Astros fans going in on Dusty Baker. So I thought, oh, this is interesting. Cover the Astros as well. I want to hear, right? So I'm listening to the show. And let me tell you all something. I don't know how many of you all out there are believers in Christ. I am. I'm a believer in Christ. So I believe that things don't just happen by chance. I don't believe that things just happen. I believe that God ordains things so you can be able to. I mean, I'm talking about good or bad. Things don't just happen. When things do happen, they're supposed to happen. So as I'm listening to this show and listening to this host talk about Astros fans, this is what happened. I'm gonna let you all hear this. The Rockets every single day travel with the team. If you can say I've watched the Texans for this many years, I've watched the Astros for this many years, but you don't cover them unless you're with them every single day or the majority of the week. Chandler Rome covers the Astros. Jonathan Fagan covers the Rockets. Our buddy John Alexander covers the Texans. Mm-hmm. Joseph Duarte covers the Cougars. Q Fan for Life does not cover the Houston Astros. Big Fraud does not cover the Texans. You heard that part? Oh, wait, you missed it. Hold on. Let me bring it back just a little bit. Here we go. The Cougars. Q Fan for Life does not cover the Houston Astros. Big Fraud does not cover the Texans. You hear the awkward silence? You heard that, right? The other host didn't say a word because the other host knew when he heard big fraud exactly who he was talking to or talking about, excuse me. I heard that. I said, okay, it's fine if you want to talk about Brian Bearfield. That's cool. I don't care. Because half the time, some of these men that I'm talking to, I've been in I've had to engage and be in more hostile areas with Afghan children that I'm afraid of more than I'm afraid of some of you guys out there. I have had to come into contact with Afghan women that I'm saying to myself, I don't know what's about to happen. So before I even get to talking about what you said about me, I don't care about that. You can talk about Brian Bearfield, but you can't talk about Big Sarge. You know why? Because Big Sarge has built a brand in the city of Houston and surrounding areas. I go to different places and people call me Sarge. I go to different arenas in different states and people call me Sarge. So you will not talk down on my brand. And the sad part about it is you see me more oftentimes than anybody. So if you felt like I was a fraud, you should have brought that to my attention and said, hey, Sarge, I need to talk to you. And this is how I feel. I wasn't going to do anything hostile to you. I'm not going to put my hands on you. I don't care nothing about that because you're not worth it. But why bring up my name in the midst of your rant when I don't even talk to you? I don't interact with you. I barely see you. I seen you as I was leaving out of the studio and you were coming in. I was leaving out. I exited right there. I didn't hang around that station when my time was done, meaning that when the show was over at 11:55, I've had my stuff packed. Once they hit the button and say, we're done, I am out. I don't hang around because you guys aren't my friends. My only friend is the guy I waited for at the elevator, and that was Indy Kalu. So let's not get it twisted. But for you to talk down on my name like that, for you to call me big fraud, and then don't have the heart or the guts to say it to my face, then you already know what I think about you. So now, remember now, this is August 15th, 2022. So at that point, I said, okay, I don't want to deal with none of it. I don't want to deal with any of it. So what did I do? I went on my page, I blocked 790, and I blocked a gang of other on-air personalities and people who work for 790, right? This had to be around about, I want to say, I don't know. It was like early afternoon. By late afternoon, I got a text. Hey man, what's going on? What you doing over there? It's like, what you talking about? Why you block all them people? Because I didn't want to have nothing to do with them. Call me big fraud. They said talking down on my name, and this isn't the first time that they've talked down on my name. This isn't the first time they said derogatory, negative things about me behind my back when I've never said a word about them because I don't care. But man, I did that because I don't want to have to deal with them no more. And on another podcast, I'll tell you, I got tired of them stealing my content. We'll talk about that later. But this whole thing started to blow up because I blocked all these people. Now, you remember how I started this show? I told you all, I am not an employee. I wasn't an employee of iHeart nor 790. I've never used iHeart or 790 to get any credentials. Why would me blocking these people matter? Why would it matter? Why would you care? It shouldn't even matter to you if I blocked you on social media, especially when I don't interact with you. especially when you've allowed another on-air host 2 years prior to attack me on social media, and you really didn't do anything about it. Maybe you were waiting to see how I was going to react. I didn't give a I didn't care. Like, because I know we see each other. If you really got to get something off your chest, I'm right here. Get it off your chest. Say it. Don't say it behind my back. Say it right here. Don't be a thumb gangster. Don't be that. Don't be a gang a Twitter gangster. Say it to me. Let's just have a conversation. So, as I digress, right? I get all these things. I say, you know what? Okay, I got it. I understand. I'm a guest on In the Trenches. I don't really want to make waves because I like hanging out with my friend. I don't want to make waves, so I'm cool. So I went in and I unblocked a couple of people. I unblocked the station and I said, okay, the station's Twitter page, and I said, okay, I'm cool. All right, I got it. All right. So just so I could, like I said, I didn't want to make any waves. I just want to be cordial. And I said, okay. Fast forward to today. I've been gone away from that station a month. And they've blocked me. And like I told you all before, normally I would not care. Normally I wouldn't give a damn. But isn't this kind of hypocritical that when I blocked y'all, it was everything was it was a big mess, and only for you to turn around and block me? What if I said derogatory about 790 since I've been off air? Nothing. What negative what negative light have I shed on iHeart or 790 since I left? None. I don't even mention 790 in none of my tweets. I don't even repost a lot of the content that I have from when I was there at 790. So what? Well, so what's the real issue? Why did you really block me? And I'm talking to you because I know you run that social media page. And I'm going to see you here pretty soon. I'm not going to ask you because I don't have anything to say to you. Let me tell you all something. I am the type of guy that is a big whatever guy. I'm a big okay guy. I just look, if it don't really pertain to me, if it don't really bother me, let me put it like that, and it ain't affecting my family, I'm cool. Man, whatever. I don't care. I'm not finna get into this high school stuff with y'all, and I'm not finna be, face to face and get aggressive and want to fight this and another. I'm not finna fight over Twitter, social media, how a man feels about me. I don't care. As long as you don't talk about my family, as long as you don't put your hands on me, I don't give a shit. I don't. But what I don't respect is if you have something to say about me and you say it behind my back rather than say it in my face. Now, on another podcast, I'll tell you all how I may do this thing live again now that 790 has opened up the floodgates. Now that 790 has opened up the floodgates for me to be able to talk, because I wasn't going to say anything, and I wasn't even on the NDA. I wasn't going to say anything. But now that you all have opened up the floodgates, maybe on the next podcast, as I continue this series, maybe on the next podcast, I'll tell you how some people were getting paid for the content that I was providing and I was not. Maybe on another podcast, I'll tell you how I was told that there's no money in the budget to pay for me and my expertise from covering these teams. Not an on-air budget. I never asked to be paid on air, but maybe just for some of the expertise and some of the content that I provide by covering these professional teams. How I was told there was no money for this, and then turn right back around, and the things that I've even said on a previous show or during that show, the person comes on right behind me that we're in the same room, pretty much talking to the same people, get paid for that content. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. We'll also have we'll deep dive and have a conversation about how the person who ran the rundown of the show, meaning that what subjects we were going to talk about, the person who ran down the subject matter never included me, even though he knew the days that I was going to be on air on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Even though he knew I was going to be on air, when he printed out the run of the show, it was only 2 copies for him and for ND. But see, the problem for him was I don't just read Twitter. Because if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. So I cover a multitude of sports. You know what that means? That I'm reading and researching a lot. So you can try to surprise and throw something in there about I don't know, let's just say you throw something in there about the New York Giants, thinking that you caught me off guard because I haven't seen the rundown sheet. And then I start telling you about the New York Giants and their franchise and their quarterback situation and their running back situation and their offensive line situation. And one of the reasons why they got rid of their wide receiver and what they're going to do at tight end and on the defensive side of the ball. When we start talking about that, and now you're looking at me like, okay, he got to be lying. And then you go and get on your computer and research it. And then instead of telling me that I'm right, you want to start another argument. We're going to talk about that though, y'all. And I'm going to do these things live. I've just come to the conclusion that I want to do these things live. Now, what I will say is this. For those of y'all who are subscribed to the Sports Talk with Big Sarge podcast, be looking, because there's actually a sports podcast coming out today, because we got to talk about this Brandin Cooks to the Cowboys situation. Hold on. Let me take off this hat. Let me put on this hat. So I just took off my professional hat and put on my fan hat. I'm so happy that the Cowboys went out and got Brandin Cooks, because that is going to be Dak Prescott's security blanket. Especially with them losing tight end Dalton Schultz, who was his safety blanket. Now you got a possession receiver who can catch. So losing Dalton Schultz and losing Noah Brown, but I'm happy that they got Brandin Cooks, and maybe they can get one more wide receiver in the draft, and then they can get the wide receiver that they drafted last year. His name slips my mind right now, to come along. So they should be good in the wide receiver department. Hold on for a second. Now let me put back on my media hat. So we'll also talk about Laremy Tunsil getting the bag and how he was able to get the bag. And I also want to dive in a little bit on how is it that Laremy Tunsil was able to represent himself and become one of the highest paid left tackles in the game, one of the highest paid professional football players in the game, but Lamar Jackson can't. And he needs an agent. It's really weird. We also want to dive into these last, this last 2 weeks last 2.5 weeks for the Houston Rockets are going to be interested seeing where they're going and what they're going to do. Yeah. And we also got the draft coming up. So, hey, thank you for tuning in to the Sports Talk with Big Sarge podcast. I'm out.